Hey everybody out there. My name is Tommy. Um, this is my YouTube channel called Counting on the Big Sleep, which I kind of named it that way because I'm getting older in age and I'm counting down the days sometimes. I wonder how long a person really has. You know, when you reach a certain age, you start to think about things like that. But we were discussing my new job. At 58, I lost my job and I had to start over. And this was part of that journey I am currently on. So, in case anybody was wondering, back it up a little bit, you know, my, you know. So, I am working at a meat processing plant where they deal with lots of chicken and beef, semi cooked. I believe some of it is, or it is fully cooked. Maybe some of it is fully cooked. They have so many different rooms in there. It's unbelievable. I mean the place is huge. It's got like tons of people. I mean there's a lot of 99% Hispanic people there. And that takes a little bit of getting used to, trying to you know communicate with them and stuff, and try not to get frustrated and stuff. And but they're good, hardworking people. Got nothing bad to say about them. Good, hardworking people. you know but it's hard to tell what people look like, because everyone has, because it's we work in 32-degree freezers. So it's like really, it's supposed to be really cold in there. So you have to, have these gloves and these hair nets, and there's a lot of people have masks and stuff, and like full, because I guess they're even colder areas than where we work. There are, they got areas in there that just look like all, one big frost, like one big freezer. And you got people working in there. But yeah, today was pretty rough, but I made it through a whole week. Can't believe it. You know, Today I had to work, back on the line. Where they'll take the frozen chicken, or the not frozen, but they'll take the chicken, throw it on an assembly line. Assembly line will take it down up into a machine. Machine chops it all up. That drops it onto another assembly line, and then it comes up and down and falls into these big bins. And these bins got to weigh about at least 25, 30 pounds at least. At least. And you have to pick them up and throw them on the table or hand them to people over across the table and stuff. And it's like constant. You got to keep moving, moving and moving and moving. So like that was like the first about 3 hours of my day. So far, it's kind of breaking down to about like every 3 hours. Well, after I said, well, we get a break after about 3 hours, and then you go to lunch. No, that's your break and lunch, because you don't get a first break. You just get lunch at 5:30. I start at 2:30. 5:30 is when we go on a lunch, and then we go back on break around 8:30, and that takes us to quarter to 9, and then we have to be back there hustling. So, and we hustle, the rest of the day, night. But yeah, that was brutal. Them things weigh. I mean, manual labor, whew, especially at my age, it's rough. You know. But that's what it's like. I mean, working in a big, meat processing plant. You know. So I maybe get a degree. I should do something else. I'm thinking about it. Definitely thinking about it. You know, but I'm trying to make a living here, trying to keep the bills, at bay, trying to keep the apartment above. You see so many homeless people, on YouTube, people living in their cars. It's like, holy crap, that sucks. That sucks. I would never want to do that. When I was younger, I lived in my car. I lived wild. You know, we partied a lot. You know, but at 58 or 57, going to be 58 in a couple months. No, no, no. I'm thinking about, you know, how to fucking retire. How to fucking, you know, how do you move? How do you transition? You know, to finding a place where you want to settle. You know, how do you get the money together? How do you do these things? You know, I was never good at them. You know, that's my ex-wife or my ex. She was the one that was really good at that stuff. I was never. I'm an idiot. You know, I'm just a worker. You know, that's all I've ever done. You know, but but that's what it's like to work in a meat processing plant. You know, a lot of Hispanic people. You know, you do have to. You will pick up on some of the things. You know, eventually I will pick up some more Spanish. You know, like it or not, because you're around it so much, you're gonna pick it up here and there. So you're trying to understand and stuff. It's the weird thing about it. You know, working in a big factory like that. You know, so take up a trade, man. Take up a trade, because the economy's gonna get worse. I can't believe I made it a whole week. I wanted to quit. I do still want to quit. you know, my body is screaming, tired. From working. These people work hard. They do. My body is screaming hard. You know, but yeah, it wasn't super bad. That was rough doing that job. And then after that, they had me like helping in the shipping department. Put boxes on skids. Taping up boxes and stuff. Which is hard work in itself, but wasn't really too bad. It's worse when you're working, on a line, and it's a time limit, because you have to move fast. You have to get it up and you have to dump it real quick because you have to put the bucket right back because the other one's just about filled. And then, another guy takes that one, he'll take that one, then I'll take, this one will fill up. Take like a few seconds more and it'll fill up, and then I'll dump it. I mean, it's a constant moving, for the first 3 hours, of the day today anyway. And it could be that way all week long or all day long. You never know. It's rough work, and these guys do work hard. The women work tremendously hard, because after they rotate us. After our breaks and lunch, they'll have us do different things. You got some women there that are doing that. Fucking dumping buckets down. I'm like, holy crap, man! And these are some big women too. I'm telling you. Because they're muscular. I mean, but it's kind of hard to tell because everyone has all this protective gear on and stuff. So it's hard to tell really the shape of people. Everyone looks kind of puffy, because we have so much other things on, like smocks and plastic and big rubber boots, helmets, hairnets, beard nets, big gloves, so it's hard to tell what people look like, but you know. But yeah, I'm surprised the women do it too. Yeah, they make the women work hard too. You know, they'll pick up boxes and stuff, and they'll you know they'll dump. One job I had, unloading, crates or like big pieces of chicken, throwing them on a conveyor belt all day long. You know, they have women doing that too. Sometimes, some women, not all, but some women. I guess it's all depends on your limit. I think that they do see your limit. So whenever, any kind of real hard job, I try to take my time a little bit, because I don't want to be picked. This is not a real job that I would want. I mean, I'm more than grateful that I have a job and have some money coming in now, which is really nice. But it's not really a job I really want to, do for the next 4 or 5 years. Trying to think of other ways. to make a little bit of money, differently. But all right, it's already been 10 minutes, so I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening. Bye.